My wife said, "Let's take a 1-week break to work on ourselves." I replied, "Okay." By day 2, she was posting restaurant pics with her coworker. So I worked on myself, filed for divorce, and let her figure out the rest. I am 36, married 8 years, together 12. No kids. 2 solid incomes. A house we bought 3 years ago that I pay the mortgage on. On paper we look stable. In real life my wife has been unhappy for a long time and made sure I knew it. She has always had a sharp edge, but over the last year it turned mean. Every conversation felt like a performance review. I was failing. How I loaded the dishwasher. How I breathed when I slept. How my job was safe but not ambitious. How I should try harder to be interesting like the men she works with. She would say things casually and then act confused when I reacted. If I pushed back, she would say I was being sensitive. If I stayed quiet, she would say I was checked out. There was no winning position. 2 weeks ago, we had another late-night fight in the kitchen. Same script. She accused me of being emotionally unavailable. I said I was tired of being spoken to like a defective appliance. She crossed her arms, leaned back against the counter, and delivered it with that tone she uses when she thinks she is being very mature. She said maybe we should take a 1-week break to work on ourselves. She said space would help her get clarity. She said it was not about anyone else. She said couples do this all the time. I looked at her and felt something detach. Not anger, not panic, just clarity. I said okay. No arguing, no pleading, no questions. She packed an overnight bag and said she would stay with a friend. She reminded me not to text unless it was important. Then she left. That was night 1. I slept better than I had in months. The house was quiet. My phone stayed face down. I told myself I would actually use the time to work on myself. I did not yet know how literal that would become. By the end of day 2, I would understand exactly what kind of break she meant. Day 2 started quiet. I worked from home and actually got more done than usual. No passive-aggressive sighs. No commentary about my posture or my coffee intake. Around noon, I checked my phone out of habit and saw nothing from her. That tracked with the rules she set. Space. Independence. Working on ourselves. Around 3, my phone buzzed anyway. Not a text. A notification. A mutual coworker of hers had tagged a group at a new restaurant downtown. I would not have noticed if her face was not right there in the photo. Front and center. Big smile. Cocktail in hand. The kind she only ordered when she was trying to look fun. Across from her was a guy I recognized immediately. Her coworker from sales. The one she said was harmless. The one she said was annoying. The one she compared me to during arguments without saying his name. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. It was just dinner. People eat dinner. Except she had been very clear that the break was about solitude and reflection. And except the caption was not subtle. Something about much-needed reset energy and laughing emojis. She had liked the post within minutes. I did not text her. I did not comment. I did not ask for explanations. I closed the app and sat there for a full minute letting the last year replay in order. The complaints. The comparisons. The way she dressed differently for work events. The way she guarded her phone. The way she framed me as the obstacle to her happiness. By that evening she posted again. Different angle. Same restaurant. Same guy. This time, just their plates and 2 glasses of wine. No attempt to hide it. No attempt to check if I could see it. Almost like she wanted me to. That was the moment I understood the break was not about growth. It was about permission. Permission to try on a different life while keeping me as the safety net. I did not feel jealous. I felt finished. I opened my laptop and started a list. Accounts. Assets. Timelines. I pulled up our mortgage documents. I pulled up my bank statements. I looked at what was joint and what was not. I did not rush. I was calm. Focused. Clinical. She wanted a week to work on herself. I decided to work on myself too, just not in the way she expected. The next morning I woke up early and went for a long walk. No music, no podcasts, just letting the reality settle. By the time I got back, I had already made the decision. I was not going to confront her. I was not going to ask for reassurance. I was not going to wait around for a week pretending this was mutual growth. I was going to act. I called a divorce attorney before noon. Not a dramatic call, just a consultation. I explained the situation plainly. Married, no kids, shared house, both employed, possible infidelity but not confirmed. He asked me what outcome I wanted. I said clean and fast. He said that was doable. We went over next steps. Documentation, finances, temporary boundaries. He told me not to move out and not to warn her. He said people show their real behavior when they think they are in control. I thanked him and scheduled the next appointment. After that, I opened a new checking account in my name only and redirected my paycheck. I did not drain joint funds. I just stopped adding to them. I paused any discretionary spending that benefited both of us. Streaming services, gym add-ons, the cleaning service she insisted on but never scheduled herself. I made copies of important documents and stored them digitally. That afternoon, she texted me for the first time since leaving. Very casual. Asked how I was doing. Said she hoped I was using the time productively. I replied that I was. Nothing more. She reacted with a heart emoji. That annoyed me more than the photos. That evening, she posted again. This time a story. Her coworker tagged. Different bar. Low lighting. Music. The caption suggested freedom. I stopped watching after that. I did not need more confirmation. Before bed, I packed a small box of personal items she had left around the house and set it aside. Not out of spite. Just preparation. I slept well again. By day 3, she still thought she was in control of the narrative. She thought I was home waiting, working on myself in the way she approved of. She had no idea the week was already over for me. Day 4 is where the tone shifted. She came by the house unannounced in the afternoon. I was on a work call when I heard the door. She let herself in like nothing had changed. No knock. No warning. Just that familiar entitlement. She walked into my office and leaned against the door frame, scanning the room like she was checking for evidence. Asked why the house felt different. I said I had cleaned. She rolled her eyes and said she meant energetically. I muted my call and told her I was working. She did not leave. Instead, she started in. Said I seemed distant. Said I was being weirdly calm. Said that worried her. She asked if I had been stalking her social media. I said no. That annoyed her more than if I had said yes. Then she flipped the script. Said the break was clearly affecting me badly. Said I should talk to someone. Said I was shutting down instead of growing. She made it sound like my lack of reaction was a personal failure. I told her the break was her idea and I was respecting it. I reminded her she asked for space. She said space did not mean cold. I said it meant separate. She scoffed and said that was not what she meant and that I was twisting things. She asked if I was angry. I said no. She asked if I was jealous. I said no. She asked if I even cared. I said I was handling my side. That is when she snapped. Said I was acting superior. Said I thought I was better than her. Said this was why she needed space in the first place. Before she left, she made a comment about how easy it was for her to feel desired again. She said it casually like a jab wrapped in a joke. I did not react. I told her we would talk after the week was over and asked her to respect my work hours. She left frustrated. Slammed the door hard enough for the wall to rattle. That evening, I emailed my attorney an update. He replied with a simple acknowledgement and told me to keep documenting. I added the visit to my notes with time and behavior. By the end of day 4, she was escalating because her usual tactics were not working. And I was more certain than ever that I was done negotiating with someone who only felt secure when I was off balance. Day 5 is when she started testing boundaries. Early morning text asking if I wanted to grab coffee and talk things through like adults. I did not reply. An hour later, another text saying she was worried about me and that ignoring her was unhealthy. I let it sit. Around noon, she called twice. I declined both. Then came the long message. She said she felt like I was punishing her. She said the break was supposed to be mutual and constructive. She said I was acting cold and vindictive. She said she was starting to feel like I did not even want to be married. I read it once and archived the thread. Not blocked, just removed from immediate view. I had a meeting with my attorney that afternoon, and I wanted my head clear. The meeting was straightforward. We finalized the initial filing paperwork. He explained the timeline and what service would look like. I asked him to proceed. He asked if I was sure. I said yes without hesitation. He nodded and said then we move. After that, I went to the bank and closed one of the joint credit cards. The one in my name that she used for work lunches and weekend shopping. I paid the balance first. Clean. No surprises. I updated my passwords and enabled 2-factor authentication on everything. Email, banking, cloud storage. I was not angry. I was thorough. That evening she showed up again. This time emotional. Eyes glossy. Voice soft. She said she missed me. Said the break was harder than she expected. Said she felt disconnected and scared. She stepped closer like she always did when she wanted reassurance. I took a step back. I told her this was not a good time and that she should respect the space she asked for. She asked if there was someone else. I said no. She asked if I still loved her. I said I was focusing on practical matters. That answer broke the spell. Her softness vanished. She accused me of stonewalling. Said I was emotionally abusive. Said any therapist would agree. I told her to leave. She left crying and angry. Texted me later saying she could not believe how heartless I was being. I slept deeply that night, because for the first time in years I was not being pulled back into chaos. I was moving forward on my own terms. Day 6 is when consequences stopped being theoretical. I was in the middle of my workday when my attorney emailed to confirm the filing was submitted and service was scheduled. Nothing dramatic, just paperwork moving forward. I felt relief more than anything else. Around mid-afternoon, my phone started lighting up. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. She had been served at work, not at home, where she could control the reaction. Right there in front of people she cared about impressing. Her first message accused me of blindsiding her. Said this was not what the break was for. Said she never agreed to this. The second message was anger. How dare I embarrass her? How dare I do this without a conversation? The third message flipped to panic. Asked if I was serious. Asked if we could slow down and talk. I did not respond. An hour later, she showed up at the house again. This time furious. She yelled through the door before I even opened it. Said I was cruel. Said I was calculating. Said this proved everything she ever felt about me. I opened the door just long enough to tell her she needed to leave and communicate through lawyers from now on. She tried to push past me. I blocked the doorway. Calm. Steady. Told her this was no longer a discussion. That was when she went low. Brought up my family. My job. Said no one would ever want someone as emotionally dead as me. Said I would regret this when I was alone. I told her she had a place to stay and that I would not fund a second life for her anymore. I reminded her the break was her request. I closed the door. That night I received screenshots from a mutual acquaintance. Her social media posts were gone. The restaurant photos deleted. The stories removed. Damage control had begun. She texted late asking if we could reset and start the week over. Said she made mistakes. Said she felt stupid. Said she still loved me. I archived the thread and went to bed. By day 6, she finally understood I was not reacting. I was deciding, and there was nothing left for her to negotiate. Day 7 arrived, and with it a strange calm. The week she asked for was technically over. She texted early asking when we were talking. She said we needed closure. She said couples who survive this kind of thing communicate. She said she felt discarded. I did not reply. Instead, I spent the morning meeting with my bank and adjusting automatic payments. Mortgage stayed covered. Utilities stayed on. Everything else that benefited her lifestyle quietly stopped. I documented it all. Clean lines. No drama. Around noon, she tried a different angle. A long message about accountability. She said she admitted she might have crossed lines. She said she never technically cheated. She said I was overreacting to social media. She said a mature husband would have talked it through instead of running to lawyers. That message annoyed me. Not because it hurt, but because it rewrote reality. She framed my response as impulsive and hers as reasonable. She framed her actions as harmless and mine as extreme. That pattern was the marriage in a nutshell. I replied for the first time all week. I told her the break exposed choices, not mistakes. I told her I acted based on information she made public. I told her communication ended when respect did. I told her future contact would be through attorneys. She exploded. Dozens of messages. Accusations. Insults. Bargaining. She said I was controlling. She said I wanted to punish her. She said she was allowed to feel desired. She said I was insecure and boring and predictable. She said the coworker meant nothing, but also said men like him reminded her what she gave up. That last part sealed it. I blocked her number. That evening I sat in the living room and looked around the house. It felt bigger without tension, quieter without commentary. I realized how much energy I had been spending managing her moods. The week was over. Not just the break, the marriage. And for the first time, that truth felt like relief, not loss. The fallout did not come all at once. It came in waves. Day 8 was logistics. Her attorney reached out. Polite. Professional. Asked about access to the house to retrieve personal belongings. I agreed to a scheduled time with a third party present. No surprises. No scenes. She showed up with her sister. No eye contact. No apology. Just tight smiles and forced efficiency. She packed clothes, shoes, personal items. She avoided the office and the garage. I noticed she hesitated at the door of the guest room like she expected to stay there. She did not ask. At one point, she tried to make small talk. Asked how work was going. I did not engage. Her sister looked uncomfortable. That was not my problem. When they were done, I handed her the box I had prepared days earlier. Things she had left behind. She looked surprised. Said I had been planning this longer than she thought. I said I planned once I had enough information. She asked if we could talk privately. I said no. She rolled her eyes and said figures. She told her sister to wait in the car and followed me to the door anyway. She said she never thought I would actually leave. She said she thought I would fight harder. She said every guy she dated before would have begged. I told her that was the difference. She said I was throwing away years over one bad week. I said it was not 1 week. It was the first honest one. She said I would regret being alone. I said I already felt less alone than I had in years. She left without another word. That night, mutual friends started reaching out, confused, asking what happened. I kept it brief. We separated. It was necessary. I did not defend myself or attack her. The truth did not need marketing. The house was quieter than ever. Empty, but not hollow. For the first time, I could imagine a future that did not require constant self-justification. That realization was heavier than any argument we ever had. By day 9, the narrative outside of us had fully formed. People had opinions. Some thought I was harsh. Some thought I finally grew a spine. A few reached out quietly to say they were not surprised. I paid attention to that last group. She tried one final angle through email. Long, carefully written. Therapy language everywhere. She acknowledged harm without admitting intent. She said she was willing to cut contact with the coworker. She said she wanted to rebuild trust. She said she felt unsafe with how quickly I pulled away. I read it once and forwarded it to my attorney. The thing she never understood was that trust did not break when she went to dinner. It broke when she framed disrespect as self-discovery. It broke when she tested how far she could go while expecting me to stay steady and grateful. That evening, I met a friend for a drink. The first time in months, I did something social without checking in first or preparing for fallout. He asked how I was holding up. I told him the truth. I felt clear. He nodded and said clarity usually looks cold to people who benefit from confusion. When I got home, I walked through the house again. This time not taking inventory, but imagining change. New routines. New energy. Maybe selling. Maybe staying. Options felt open instead of threatening. I slept deeply again. Somewhere between day 1 and day 9, I stopped seeing myself as someone being left and started seeing myself as someone who chose. And that shift made everything else irrelevant. It has been a few weeks now. The paperwork is moving. The house is quiet in a way that feels intentional, not empty. I changed the locks. Not out of fear, but out of finality. I started cooking again. Sleeping better. Thinking clearly. She sent one last message through her attorney asking if I would reconsider mediation aimed at reconciliation. I declined. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just no. Looking back, the most revealing part was not the restaurant photos or the coworker or even the insults when she lost control. It was the assumption. She assumed I would wait. She assumed I would negotiate my dignity. She assumed that a break meant I would pause my boundaries while she explored hers. When she said, "Let us take a week to work on ourselves," she meant freedom for her and suspension for me. I agreed to the words, but not the unspoken contract underneath them. I did work on myself. I stopped tolerating contempt dressed up as honesty. I stopped confusing patience with self-respect. I stopped auditioning for a role she had already recast. If anyone reading this is in a similar spot, here is the only advice I have. When someone asks for space, pay attention to what they do with it. And when their actions answer questions they refuse to say out loud, believe them the first time. I am not angry. I am not bitter. I am done. And that feels like the most grounded thing I have done in years.
Asbestos in it. And so they just only recently found this out and they closed all the playgrounds. So the kids are like, well, why can't we go down the slide? It's like, So alcohol is this really easily available thing that people can access, and too often people use it to treat, issues with their headspace that initially you might think it does the job, but it's actually like a really terrible, terrible drug for you to put into your body if you're having those problems. And I know this from my own experience and also from the experience of others that are close to me. But that's exactly what it was, right? I think I was like, I don't know, I can't remember. I was in my mid-teens. And